All right, so getting right into it today, we're going deep on a story out of Mexico.
Okay.
And it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Two young brothers murdered.
Hmm.
And, obviously, anytime kids are involved, it just hits harder.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're looking at a CBS News article for this one.
Okay.
And I think, what we're really going to try to do is unpack this and see if we can understand how something like this can happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a symptom of a much bigger problem, right?
Absolutely.
So looking at it through that lens, I think, is going to be important.
For sure. Yeah, so, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
CBS is reporting these brothers, 10 and 12 years old,
Wow.
riding an ATV near their home in Sinaloa, Mexico. And
Oh, wow.
they were just killed.
That's awful.
Yeah, and, Sinaloa, probably rings a bell for a lot of people.
Right. Sinaloa Cartel.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the name is practically synonymous with drug trafficking and violence.
Yeah, for sure.
They've been a major player for decades,
Right. Yeah.
And their influence, it's not just, drugs and crime. It kind of seeps into everything in that region.
Yeah, I mean, so these boys, it sounds like they were just...
Caught in the crossfire. Yeah, more than just, some random act.
Right, exactly.
This is organized. This is part of a bigger picture.
And the thing is, this story, it didn't just end there, with this horrible tragedy.
Right.
It sparked these massive protests.
Yeah, I read about that.
Thousands of people in the streets.
Wow.
Demanding justice. And I think there was this one quote that CBS picked up that really gets to the heart of it.
Okay.
One resident saying, "I want to live, not survive."
Yeah, that's powerful.
And it just speaks volumes, right?
He does, yeah.
What the kind of atmosphere down there.
Yeah, this constant fear, this sense that you're always just one step away from violence, from tragedy.
Exactly, yeah. And so, looking at these protests, do you think this could be a turning point?
I mean, that's the question, right? It's happened before, right?
Right.
This kind of public outcry, usually after something especially horrific happens.
Right.
But the real question is, can they sustain it?
Yeah, I mean, can they turn this anger, this grief, into something that forces real change?
Right, because that's what it's going to take, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, the government, they've got to step up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the government's response to the cartels, it hasn't really been effective.
Right, yeah, and there's this whole other layer of corruption, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you fight something when the people who are supposed to be fighting it are in on it?
Exactly, yeah.
And then you look at the cartels themselves, right? I mean, these are not just, games on the street corner.
Oh, yeah, they're sophisticated.
Right, they're businesses practically with tons of money, connection. Yeah, and the will to use them.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The article, it doesn't really dive into solutions, does it?
No, it's very much focused on the immediate aftermath, the emotional impact, the calls for justice, which I think is telling in itself.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Because it's bringing it back to the human cost, right? It's not just statistics or headlines.
Right.
These are real people, real families who are being torn apart by this.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? What's the takeaway for people listening?
Well, I think, first and foremost, recognizing the complexity of the issue.
Yeah.
It's easy to oversimplify, to say, just arrest the leaders or crack down harder.
Yeah.
But it's not that simple.
Right.
There's this whole web of social, economic factors, corruption, and, we can't ignore the demand for drugs.
Right. Yeah. It's a global problem.
Exactly. And until we start addressing all of those threads, it's going to be an uphill battle.
It's like this tangled mess.
Exactly. But I think acknowledging that mess, acknowledging the human cost, and just continuing to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
That's where we start.
Right. So I think this deep dive leaves us with a lot to think about.
For sure.
What's it really going to take to break this cycle of violence?
Yeah.
To bring real peace and security to places like Sinaloa. That's a question we all need to be thinking about.
Absolutely.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Of course.
We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
All right, take care.
You too.